I'm sorry, you're not gonna get your controversial food takes from me, guys.
I know
it's a
Wrong
gotcha
guest
podcast,
for
but yeah, I'm not playing your games. My publicist told me not to answer that question.
Welcome to No Substitutes, a show where I have some of my favorite people on, and we talk about what ingredients make them who they are. Today, I have a very special guest. We met, I think, last year, maybe 2 years ago, at a Bad Friends show, because we're all friends with the Bad Friends crew. He's a talented producer. You may recognize him from the show Bad Friends, as I mentioned already 17 times. And I actually don't know him too well, so that's why I had him on, so that I could get to know him. But please welcome McKone.
Hi.
How you say your last name? Corkery?
Corkery.
Corkery. It's quirky.
It is. It's a little odd. Yeah. My first name is actually a last name, so.
McKone?
Yeah. It's my grandma's maiden name, so it's like
cute
family name, so I never really see it anywhere else other than like tombstones of like family members.
Right.
Yeah, so.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how's your day?
Pretty good. I've never done a podcast before, so I mean, like I'm in the background of a lot of Bad Friends things, but I don't usually talk too much. But it's just like, you asked, and I was like, sure, this could be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I even I asked Santino just to make sure. I'm like, is it okay if I steal him for a day? He's like, yeah, let's make him uncomfortable.
Yeah. Mission accomplished, folks. We did it.
Also, thank you for stopping by yesterday by the food truck. That was fun.
I was actually doing my last episode of Jason's show yesterday, and he just moved to somewhere. I don't know if I'm supposed to say. I mean, he moved somewhere, and you were somewhere, and you were on my. It was on my way, UCLA. So I was like,
hell yeah,
might as well stop by and
get some free tots.
Say hi. They were fantastic. Yeah. The tots were really good.
Yeah.
Great sauce, great. Nice, fantastic. It was worth the stop.
Yay, good. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. Course 1. What are 3 ingredients you would say you need for your profession?
So definitely one would be, should I say what I do? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
So
because I guess I don't really know.
I technically I produce on Bad Friends. Like I help on a couple of the shows, and Hawk vs. Wolf with Tony Hawk and Jason Ellis and Jason Ellis show. And I help on a Whiskey Ginger too, Santino's other pod. But I was originally hired by Bad Friends just as a videographer for tour. So I was filming a lot of behind the scenes stuff for that, but also shooting like sketch stuff for like promos before and before we went, and still like stuff to this day. And that's kind of like the main thing that I really love and find myself doing is just filmmaking in general, and also just like being around stand-ups is amazing. And especially people like Bob and Andrew who have such they are amazing stand-ups, but also really great actors and performers. And Bobby obviously has like a very great history with sketch and other stuff, and Andrew's like an incredible actor and so much. So they're just the best. They're the perfect people, and they're really fun. So that's what I do. So I'm mainly gonna be talking about like filmmaking in general.
I know. I probably should have given a better introduction because
that's all right. That's all right.
Like, who the fuck is this?
We're doing it. One thing is versatility, which is interesting because
that's a good one.
When I went to film school, when I went to college, before then, like I've been doing film stuff since I was like in 4th grade. I had my first camera, and I was like, just filming. It was just like a habit I never really grew out of. And like, any opportunity I could like in school to make school projects, videos, even if I really steered far away from the prompt of the original assignment. I, was lucky enough to have a lot of teachers who were really cool with just like someone being passionate about doing something. So they were just like, oh, you get like a B. They're like, you'd put a lot of work into this.
Like, this has nothing to do with the subject, but
it's nothing to do with
cool. It's artsy.
Frog dissection. But I guess, you made a 40-minute video, so you get, you get a B.
Nice.
But you're doing all that stuff yourself. And then when you go off to college, like a film school, like I went to Columbia, Chicago.
Wow.
And it's not the Ivy. It's
a
different, but it's
for film,
it's great.
Though,
it's great for what it. I love Columbia.
Film. Yeah.
And it's when you're there, you have to pick a specialty.
Okay.
If you're doing film, so I did directing and cinematography.
I actually went to film school for that.
Really?
But I dropped out after. Directing.
Both of those things.
But then I dropped out.
Well, that,
because it was really expensive.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with that, the thing with film school is like you don't need it in some cases, especially when it comes to like directing or writing. A lot of that is just you learn it by doing it.
Yeah.
But also like when I'm from like a smaller town in like 40 minutes out in the suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So like,
Minnesota.
You betcha. So,
you betcha.
There's really not a lot of, even like in the cities, there's not a lot of film there, even in the Midwest in general. Like, so really like you got to get your foot in the door some way, but like, and directing is like my main thing I really love, you know, having, you know, control over the vision of all of that. It's just like, you know, the most all encompassing thing you can do, but it's also like, you're not learning a lot of tangible, but you're not learning a lot of tangible skills like in a workspace. So it's a thing where it's like, you're learning like, how do you interpret the script or how can you work well with others? And it's like, if I'm paying this much for a school, I want to learn like an actual skill I can use in a workplace. Cause who knows, like it is like, it's scary and it's a gamble to go into like the arts. Cause it's like, you know, this could easily not work, you know, like I was.
And then you put all this money into it. Yeah.
A lot of people in my hometown said I was good at this, but you know, how many people are doing that in Otsego, Minnesota versus like somewhere a lot bigger out here. Yeah. It's and it's also good to always have a tangible skill to fall back on. Yeah. Like cinematography, you have to learn how to build up a camera. You have to wire. It's a lot of like just technical things stuff to learn. Yeah. Building a camera, especially like running old film stuff. Like I was fortunate enough to be one of the last classes at Columbia where they taught film. And that's just like, it's so cool learning film, like digital camera, like we're in an amazing time with technology in regards to filmmaking. Like you can make films for less money than ever before. Distribution has been easier than ever before. Like theaters are dying and that's terrible and that sucks. But also it's never been easier or cheaper to make something. So it's really an amazing time to get into it. But also like if something breaks on like a digital cinema camera, you have to like, often you have to send it in somewhere or it's just like, it's so much harder. Like old film cameras, they're actually such simple machines and it's really like cool learning like, you know, like it's a bunch of just levers and switches and shit stuff running through together and just like.
Did you have to like cut and like put the film together? Did you ever do that?
I didn't do that. Like, that would have been an editing specialty course. But also half of my school was, you know, disrupted because of COVID. So damn. You know, that was one of the main reasons I went there was a lot of like in-person learning these cameras that I loved. Right. And then unfortunately half of that but also like it was bad for everyone. But it was just like, that was one thing that was like a big bummer. That was like, because you get more qualified to use bigger cameras the deeper into it you got. And that happened when I was a junior in college. COVID hit. So, but anyway, when you're in film school and you're specializing in a thing, like when you're directing on a set at school, they're like, you can't touch the camera. You're only like looking at a monitor and focusing on this and like doing that. And it is like, it was so hard at the beginning to not be super hands-on and like not, and like kind of like learn to like, it's a lot of just like learning communication and learning, you know, trusting in other people and like a way to communicate your ideas to other people in a way that, you know, makes them understand. Yeah. And also just kind of like letting go of that control of all that and being just like that. But then once I got out into like what I'm doing now, everyone's like, can you do everything? So it's like, we're back to that, but I'm glad that I had to go through that and kind of learn that kind of discipline and working with a larger group. And also eventually I'd like to get back to that on like larger sets, hopefully in the future. And then it'd be good to go back. But it's like, it's all, even if it's not like, you know, the way you think things are going to go, it's all like, you can always like learn stuff from like any type of situation, good or bad, you get into. And, you know, if you have like a positive attitude about stuff and be like, I'm going to learn something from this. So this is not like, you know, so it's all like beneficial, you know, as far as we go. So I definitely think like versatility, especially in this current climate, like if you know how to like, if you know how to do stuff like posting on social media and obviously like an algorithm is
like
such
a whole nother beast now.
No one knows what the algorithm is. So it really is just like, if
it wasn't for this guy, I would not be doing any of
this. It's so hard. And it really is just like, the ultimate thing is just like, if you're confident enough that what you're making is unique and cool and the people that you're making it for also like it and put it up, like that's the most important. Some things hit on the algorithm and some things don't. There's no like, there's obviously SEO things you can do and specific things you can do there, but also there's no like specific, like if you do 1, 2, and 3, it's going to go viral. It's like, that's not how anything works. The algorithm is completely unpredictable. So if you're making art for yourself and not for the algorithm, like that's the most important thing. If you stand by what you're making and you're like, this is cool, I like it, the people I work with like it, so hopefully these other people like it.
Yeah. No.
That's ingredient 1.
It's always so random.
We spent 10 minutes on ingredient 1.
And that's the end of this episode.
It's great. Thank you for having me. I wrote these down, but because I knew I was going to forget them. But number 2 is, hold on, let me look at this real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I wrote these down because I knew I was going to forget them. Oh yeah, a specific style. Having that, something that makes you unique and able to like sell yourself. This is another thing that was like a really impactful thing to learn during college. Cause like, when you're like one of the only people in town doing film stuff, it's like, you can just kind of like, if you can cut something competently together, it's like, oh yeah, you're the film person and you can do all this.
You're that guy.
And then you go to a school where people your age are like amazing, are like way better than you are at so many different things. And you're just like, because before you're just like, oh, I like this movie, I'm gonna kind of do a bit of this, or I like this, and I'm gonna do it. And then it doesn't, and that's like normal when you're starting in art. You don't have your own unique voice yet. You're just trying everything and seeing what you like and seeing what you don't like. And sometimes you like a thing and you try to do that and you're like, that didn't work.
Yeah, that that's not translate the way I am.
That's not a thing that I, as like who I am as a person, could pull off for whatever reason. But then when you're in a place with a lot of people who are really good at things, you learn what you yourself are really good at and what other people see in your work, and you're like, oh, that was really cool. And that's a thing that's kind of unique to you. And then also you start picking that up in your favorite filmmakers and different things that you see, then you're like, I love this part of this film, or I like how like whatever, like I like how Kubrick does this, or I like how Scorsese does this, or I like how these different.
I was thinking of like, so in Los Angeles, I feel like what's cool is you found your people, but the way you find your people is you guys all like with collabing, like I think Santino just loves the way you shoot things. And that's why it works. That's why you guys have a good relationship, especially as both creatives. Like it's never going to be a struggle. And even if it is, it's like what you both are wanting is just to produce something great.
100%.
That makes me think about like Roger Deakins always works with like
Coens and all these folks.
Yeah, like there's a lot of there's this podcast called Candela. They stopped making episodes, unfortunately, but you would like it. I don't know if you've heard it before, but there were these two one's a cinematographer, one's a photographer, and they were interviewing a lot of famous cinematographers or producers. And what I learned from that is every director like has their cinematographer. Like Wes Anderson only works with this one guy. Like you find your people that know how to bring your visions to life. That's 100%. Like a very important thing, I feel like, for any sort of film industry.
That was another reason why I feel like the luckiest person on earth every single day. It's just like Bad Friends was like my favorite podcast. Like back in the day. Like I watched it since it came out. Like
how long has it been out?
It came out right before COVID. So I think it probably started airing probably mid-February 2020, if my memory serves correctly. Okay. Just thinking timeline-wise, because like I've been really into stand-up since like middle school. Yeah. Like I loved it. Like I used to, like middle school was the time where I was like, all right, I'm getting too old to make videos with like the neighborhood kids, but I don't have like a good core group of friends outside of that. So I spent a lot of time just like, I did a lot of running when I was younger, like cross country and all that. So I spent a lot of time just like going on runs and then just like listening to Pandora radio, stand up, and 90s hip hop. Those are two things that I really just loved. That's another thing that we've talked about. Yeah. And then I just got like really in depth into that, and then eventually like a lot of my friends that I got really close with in high school are also just really big fans of stand up, and we all like loved like TigerBelly and Whiskey Ginger and Andrew and Bobby specifically together. So when Bad Friends came out, it was like our favorite podcast. And my friend, when I was in Chicago, every single year for St. Patrick's Day, my friends would drive down from Minnesota and stay with me and go out in Chicago, because that's just like such a great town for St. Patrick's Day. If you've never been, it's fantastic.
I haven't. I don't think I've ever been in Chicago, actually.
Really? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like
Santino's always raving me about it.
He's
a Chicago boy.
It's such a great. I mean, I love the Midwest. I till the day I die. It's great. Minneapolis is also so great. I mean, it just for I know. I love it because I'm not there.
Right.
You know?
It's you can romanticize it from a distance,
like,
but you're like, I'm not.
Like we would
maybe when you're like dying.
100%.
Then you could go back.
I like most of my half the time I was trick or treating as a child was in the snow. And then we'd also be like, we'd have to like
No
shovel
thanks.
off the track, like
good.
midway through track season.
I'm
like,
born and raised in Cali. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm a princess.
It's so great to go home
good
and like
weather.
play hockey with my cousins out on the pond behind my grandma's house
you
over
are
Christmas.
so Midwest.
But then get to fly to LA
Go play
on
on the pond.
January 1st. Go back on the pond.
Back on the pond in Minnesota.
But yeah, so my friends would drive down to Chicago every single year for St. Patrick's Day, and we had front row seats to see Santino perform on the first show that got canceled because of COVID.
Damn.
So that was like, it's like a crazy.
That's kind of crazy.
And then,
you
like, when
guys
I
almost
first-
like crossed paths.
I know.
And then
And then he was also the first show I ever saw in LA was exactly 1 year later in 2021, and I just moved to like I was living in like a Craigslist room in a house in Echo Park.
oh my.
And then like it was when all the comedy clubs were still closed.
yeah.
And like I was so excited from like my friend John drove out to LA with me because I had never really been out here till like I moved out here. And then and the first place we went when we got here was we just drove to the Comedy Store and we just like parked there. It like wasn't open, but we just like walked. We were just like, I can't believe that we're here. Like this is crazy.
Right. Just to be.
Yeah, just like looking at the
There.
names and just being like, holy, this is like incredible. But then yeah, like I saw him like exactly a year later, and I just like briefly had a quick, just like, hey, I was supposed to see you a year ago, but it got canceled. He's like, oh, I'm glad you got to see me. All right, bye. You know.
How did you like get the job, or like?
So-
were you just?
No, yeah, I was back home during COVID.
I was gonna say, it almost sounds like a Jamie and Joe kind of situation. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's how Jamie got hired on Joe Rogan, right? He was like at the Comedy Store. It was like, hey, if you ever need
Yeah.
a dude,
No, it was. It's so weird that I know the story.
well,
But
you're
when-
more in the world
Yeah.
than I am.
When
So I don't know.
so Red Band was the original producer for
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, and then Red Band went to Jamie for like technical questions. So he would like Joe would like see Jamie every once in a while coming on set, giving Red Band advice on like how to do all the equipment. And then you know when Red Band and Joe had their mini falling out, he just went and hired Jamie since he had seen him already a couple times, like setting up the
Interesting.
studio. and
I
stuff.
literally thought it was because I'm like, that's weird. If you were just like at the Comedy Store and you're like, hey, and he's like, sure, I'd be like, sus.
Actually, I do know. I'm not going to say this person's name, but I do know one producer who worked on a big show that's how he got his job. He just like hung. He was like hiding out at the Comedy Store to run into the comic that he wanted to work for, and then that's how he got his
As long as
producing
you're,
job.
I guess, consistent and persistent.
Comedy
how did you
comedians
have-
are so like quick. Like that is like just like will make quick rash decisions. That is one
Yeah.
avenue where you can just kind of be like, hey, I'm here right now. You want it? And they're like, okay, sure. And if you're good enough, they'll kind of keep you on.
Nice.
But
Is that,
essentially,
yeah.
no, that's not how I got
okay.
it.
I was like,
So I don't know if you were working on this episode of TigerBelly, but it was like I was back home because I went back to Minnesota during the pandemic because all my jobs in Chicago shut down. So I was back in Minnesota FedEx driving because I would drive big trucks in Chicago. It was one of my jobs. And that was one of the only ways you can make money during the pandemic. So I was like doing like my last Zoom classes like from my FedEx truck, driving around like freezing cold Minnesota, like watching podcasts and everything. And then there was an episode of TigerBelly where there was a director named Brandon Dermer on there who worked with Bobby on things, and Dermer?
Yeah. I did work on that episode.
Crazy. But I heard that episode, and he went to Columbia, Chicago as well. And he did the semester in LA program, and that was one of the main reasons I went to that school as well, is because I knew I wanted to end up out here. And they're like, yep, you could take your last semester out there, and you take your classes, like, and some of your classes are all about like getting acclimated to LA and pitching and other specific things.
Oh, that's really
and then,
smart.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And then because of COVID, it all got put online.
right.
So I was still trying to I was applying for internships that only were in person. And I was like, I'm going to find
Yeah.
a way out there anyway. And then this guy Dermer went on the podcast and was talking about how great that program was. And then Bobby was talking about just like how approachable and how good of a guy this guy Dermer is. So I found him on Instagram and I just DM'd him and I said, hey, my name is McKone. I like love comedy. And like, he directed Santino's first special, his Showtime one, and he directed Bobby and What Would Diplo Do, and directed a bunch of music videos. And stuff like that. So I was just like, it's really cool that you work with these guys. I love a lot of that stuff that I've seen them in that you've done. Would you have any like tips or anything for someone from the Midwest who's never really been out in LA before? And he like sent me a bunch of voice notes back and was really cool.
Wow.
And he was like, if you ever like, here's my email, send me your resume. If like someone ever needs like hand on set, like I'll send them your info. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. So like,
shoot your shot, guys.
yeah. So and then when I first got out there, and also just like don't be annoying, but
But also
respond
just
every couple of
like,
months.
yeah.
Because also people, if you're not recently in someone's phone, they'll forget. It's just the nature, especially if they've never met you before.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's any sort of jobs. You still gotta be persistent and kind of let them know like you're available.
I'm still
and you
here,
want to work.
And the industry goes through weird downturns. Like when I was still out here, when I first came out here during COVID, there wasn't a lot of production, and he had just wrapped on a movie, so I would like email him like every couple of months, be like, hey, updated resume, like anything new, and he'd be like, nope, hit me back in a month or so, and I'd be like, okay. And then eventually I got like a text from like this random dude named Wojciech, and he was his cinematographer, and he's like, hey, I saw that you have camera experience on your resume, like I'm shooting like a really low budget short up in Sacramento this weekend, like would you be interested in that? And I was like, oh my God, like yeah, 100%. And he also said like, I got your number from Dermer, and I was like, this is the Dermer guy. I'm like, all right, we're in. But it was also like, I was just, at that time I was just doing PA stuff. It'd been a while, it'd been like pre-COVID, so I was really working on a set, so I was like so nervous. And this actually falls into my third thing that was gonna top my third ingredient. We're staying on track, guys.
Yeah.
But I went up there with him, like he loaded my car up with like whatever, like $150,000 worth of camera gear. I'm just a stranger. And I'm just like, all right.
Oh my.
Let's try. I'm like, this is crazy. The stuff in my car is worth like 20 times more than my car. I'm just like, that's such a weird, like, situation. So, but I drove it up, and he went to Columbia as well. He went to Columbia, Chicago.
Oh, cool.
The director, Kate Cobb, and the writer, Kevin Bigley, who were also both acting in it, both went to DePaul in Chicago. So they were all like Chicago folk, and they were just like really good, cool people. And like when I first was I was really nervous about, like getting like everything right, and like mainly being there for the job. But also like we were just kind of living in the same place, and I was just kind of hanging out. And then the third thing I was going to say that's good for you in your career is be chill.
Be chill.
And just like, but not even in that like kind of way, like, but in a way like find people that are similar to you that you can like get along with, that or that you guys have similar senses of humor, or you guys like to get along with each other. Cause it's like pretty quickly that's kind of like they kept bringing me on to more stuff, because they're just like, they're like, oh yeah, like we love this kid. And they're some of my favorite people, and some of like my people that like I love so much and forever will always be like, they just kind of kept bringing me on to stuff and are the best. And Wojciech especially, like I worked under him for so long doing camera stuff. And then eventually a year after that short, they did a feature adaptation of the short film. We shot it in Illinois, so it was fun to go back in Chicago and work on something. Yeah. And then when we were there, I did like a documentary series, like a comedy doc series when I was like in high school and college, called Shitheads, just following some of my friends from back home.
Nice.
And just kind of their very unique Minnesotan, just kind of very atmospheric. And originally it was just kind of just like videos of just them, people drinking too much and getting to, cops busting a thing and running into a cornfield, or like, people get, things here and there. Yeah. Just again, acting like shitheads essentially. And I would just do it a lot.
Great title.
Especially when I was that was the hardest thing, was figuring out that title, but it's perfect for it.
Yeah.
And I do it a lot in college when I would just miss them, and I had all this like camera footage, and I'm like, I miss these guys, I want to do that. And like my roommates would like it a lot, and other people, and it was a fun way for me, like, I love these people so much, I want other people in my life to know about them in the way that I know them, and that's a great way. It was all just like fly on the wall POV type stuff. And then they all liked it, and so I kept making them. And then when we were on this shoot, I showed it to them, and they were the first kind of like older, like, not like older, but like not like someone who's like whatever, 20 like, or 19 or something.
More mentors and
exactly. Yeah. And they were just like, this is amazing. They loved it. So that was really cool, like hearing people like validate that in that sense. Cause I wasn't making it to be like, I was just like, this is just a fun thing to do. Well, I liked it too, because it was a way, like, especially when I was like in high school and college, And it was like a semester where I didn't have a lot of like classes where I was like shooting something specifically or making something. It was a way that it was like going to the gym. It was a way that I was always able to shoot something and always able to edit something.
Right.
And it was a fun, like there was no stakes. It didn't get posted anywhere. Like it was literally just to show to them. So if I wanted to experiment with something new or try to edit a thing in a different way, it was a way that I could just kind of like mess around and be like, let's just try something weird. And if it doesn't work, like it's not going anywhere. Like who cares?
Yeah.
So it's a fun way to always like keep those skills sharp. And eventually that, the cinematographer Wojciech told that guy Dermer about that, and then he saw it, and then we like had like a lunch meeting one day, and he was just like, oh, like, what do you want to do with that show? Like, do you want to try to like sell it? Like, I had like a lot of episodes of it. He's like, do you want to sell it or do that? I was like, I don't really want to do that, but I would like to use that as like a way to like pitch a way to like go on tour with like some comedians or like a band and shoot something. For like a band, you can do it to like promote an album or a tour, but for comedians, it's like the most ideal situation because they're like you're all comedians. But they're never off.
No.
Like especially like Bobby, like there's always bits going on. That like every new person they meet is like a guest on a show, and like chaos just takes over around it, and it's just like they're constantly on, and they're just perfect subjects for that type of thing, and it's fun because it's like them interacting with the world around them, and then this isn't like an overly polished way. It's kind of like gritty and handheld, and a lot of it was shot on my iPhone, and it's just kind of like. That's what like comedy feels like. Yeah. Like a lot of the Netflix specials and like no shade, but this is just like, I think a lot of them just like look too polished and too nice. And it's just like, they're shot so like clean. Yeah. And like for some people that definitely
comics
works.
Aren't clean.
Yeah. Someone like a Seinfeld is someone who's really like dialed in and very like a specific, or even just like an old, like, especially like the 50s type, like pre-Carlin and Pryor, Lenny Bruce type comedians. Yeah. Like, of course, that is perfect for them. But a lot of comedy is like dirty and gritty and like would be cool for it to be like shot like a little more handheld or like on film and like like gritty and like whatever, grainy.
I think it was, I didn't watch all of it, but I liked how Fahim's special was shot because it was shot at the Comedy Store. It's like, this is how it feels to be at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, it's Hat Trick special.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. One of the GOATs.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. I'm not media trained.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know what I'm doing
I'm
here.
not media trained. Yeah. He's like, don't judge me, guys.
We were talking about...
ingredients, but...
I know. Well, yeah, that was a long... tangent. Oh, but I was talking to Dermer about comedy, and then I tell him all of this, and he said, "Okay, who would be your ideal people to work with?" And obviously, like I said, Bobby and Andrew, because they are the ideal people to work with. Yeah. But also, I know about him through Bobby and Andrew, so I'm also just like, well, Bobby and Andrew would be incredible. Yeah. And he was like, oh, well, let's try to put something together sometime, and maybe try to pitch something to Santino. And I was like, that'd be amazing. And I think that was in December of 2022, we had this conversation. Then in January of 2023, I was at a show in the Belly Room, and I leave and I see Bobby walking around. And then I was like, oh my God, I gotta go say something to Bobby. And I was like so nervous. And I went up to him and I was like, hey, I actually have you to thank for a lot of my jobs I got out here in LA because I heard Dermer on TigerBelly. And he was like, oh, you know Dermer? And I was also so nervous. Like I was like stumbling over every word that I was saying. And he was so nice. He was just like, so sweet. He was like, here, like, calm down. Like, it's fine. Like, let's take a seat. He's like, you don't have to like, just take a deep breath. And I was like, okay. And then we just talked about movies and stuff for a while. And I told him like a lot of other stuff and he's just so like
fun to talk to him.
And he was just like, okay, like here, take my number. Like, let's do something sometime. And I was like, oh my God. I lived like in Hollywood at the time, but like I walked home from the store. Like I walked like 3 miles home, like calling everyone who was awake. Like my friends in Chicago who were insomniacs were still awake. And I was just like, I was like, Bobby, he gave me his number tonight. Like, this is crazy. And then
Cloud 9.
Yeah. And then like a month or so after that, Dermer called me and he was like, hey, I just got a text from Andrew. They're looking for someone to come on tour and film with them. Like literally exactly what we were talking about. Like you're in, right? And I was just like, oh my God. And at that point I was just like, I didn't want to tell a lot of my friends. Cause again, like my friends, we all were such big fans. Like I was just like, told some of them like, hey, this thing might happen. But I was like, no way it's actually going to happen. Like this is so outlandish of a situation. I was like, no way it's ever going to happen. So I sent Andrew a couple things I sent Dermer a couple things that I did and he would forward it to Andrew. And I have a video. I was actually FaceTiming with one of my friends the moment I got like the text from the random number that said, yo, it's Santino. And I like jumped up and like ran around. I was like, I could not believe it. And it's one of those like, like they're both like those people that like, you know, you have a parasocial relationship with them because you watch them and you hear all these stories, but also like you watch people that you feel like you are similar to in a lot of ways.
For sure, yeah.
So like Bobby lived in Minnesota for a while. He's a big, like super
When
big.
the fuck did he live in?
He grew up, he lived in Edina.
Oh.
Which is like also like.
I should know more.
It's the richest neighborhood in Minnesota. It's the one everyone in Minnesota makes fun of and they call them cake eaters.
Oh.
It's from the Mighty Ducks.
It's also funny, like people also don't realize like Bobby's parents' store was like super successful. Like it wasn't like his parents were like struggling with this one store. It was just he was like doing pretty well off when he was a little kid.
He was killing it.
Yeah.
Edina, born and raised. No, he was born in San Diego. But
that's why I was like, I thought it was just a San Diego kid.
But and then also it was fun because, you know, when I've been around his mom a few times, just talking
Bobby
about.
Mom?
Yeah, exactly. How I'm from Minnesota and she's just like, she loved her time living in Edina. So it's just kind of fun just connecting with her. I'm not just like a weird little thing. And Santino's like a Chicago guy. And he's
boy,
like, he is so similar to like, so much like family that I have. Like I just feel like very just close to them. And then also having those like thoughts get like confirmed on tour, you know, living with, because I went from like, I was a fan and then like literally probably the third time I saw them was like at the airport flying to live on a tour bus with them for 2 months. And that was like one of the craziest moments of my life where I was just like, I can't believe it. Like I'm just like, I would like lose my mind when I'd be at the Comedy Store and they'd be like, Andrew Santino, like when they were like, I would just be like, oh my God, this is crazy. Now that I'm just like now I'm living with them. It's like, I was so nervous. I was so like excited and stressed. I had like I had like night terrors every night on the bus.
Yeah.
I was like, cause I like sometimes would get them. I would started getting them when I was like later in my life, like around like, you know, around like middle school. I started getting them because like stress. I do like sleepwalk and all this stuff. And then I remember being like getting ready to go on the bus and like it doesn't happen as often at this point. And I remember talking to my mom and being like, I'm so nervous. I'm going to sleepwalk. Like, should I talk to like my therapist about this? I mean, like, I'm like, should I like try to get like something diagnosed or make something for it? Cause like a sleep issue is such a weird anomaly because like, you know, like when you wake up from like a bad dream and then you're like feel shook up for a second and then you're like, okay, that was a dream. Like, who cares? Like, that's what like it is when you wake up from like, and you're like standing or something, or like you're running like, cause like all my night things are like the same as I'm like running from something alone and I'm gonna die.
Jesus.
Like I had one where someone I was like in the woods and someone was like, come on. And I was like, we were like running through like thick woods and leaves and they were running and they had a flashlight. And then at one point they looked back and turned off the flashlight. I just heard them take off. And I was like, oh my God. And I just start running and it's pitch black. And then I like fell off my bed and scraped up my arm. And then but I was like, at the time I was just like, oh, thank God I'm not in the woods alone. Like that would have been terrible. But like, we're still cooking,
so
you know?
Yeah. That's crazy.
But I was just like, it didn't happen that much at that point. So I was just like, okay, like, should I do something about it? And my mom was like, you're just going to be fine. You're not going to sleep. You're not going to. And like every single night it was like, and I used to record myself because one of the first episodes of Bad Friends, they actually talked about this. Like they got Bobby this sleep talking app. And then I bought it because of the episode to hear myself do it. And then they're like horrific. They're like, they sound like I'm being murdered. And that's how they would wake up like that.
They're like, what
every
is
night.
happening?
And I felt so bad, but also I'd stay up late, like editing stuff and working on stuff. And then sleeping, you're just like in a moving bus. And then like, also if I wake up and it's pitch black, like I don't realize that like I'm still in the dream, you know?
Right.
Sometimes I wouldn't wake up.
No, I'm still in the woods.
Exactly. Until like I accidentally throw open my windows or something and I see like the snow outside in my basement or whatever. But like, so ironically, the stress of not sleepwalking and night terroring made it just happen every night.
Awesome.
And then they played it on the show. So that was a fun first, because also it's like, I'm not used to being in front of the camera.
Right.
Like it's kind of a stressful situation. Like it's not, I like being behind, like that's where I find it is like fun. Like it's crazy because it's just like, it's fun. Like you're like, imagine like your favorite show as a kid. And then like and then like a later season of the show, you're a character on the show. It's bizarre. A guy got a tattoo yesterday of the crew, and I'm on it.
And I'm
on a guy's arm. Like this is so weird. But I remember at the beginning being like, oh man, like are they gonna talk about this on the show? And they did it. They talked about it on Bustin' with the Boys in Nashville. And then that was one of the clips they used. And then a bunch of people from my high school saw it, and I was just like, oh man. But also just like, who cares?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's like the sun still. It's like, oh, it's like it is like, oh man, these people don't know about like my night terrors. This is embarrassing. But also just like,
well,
no one really cares.
You're touring with comics.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good first thing because after that, it's just like, all right,
now
whatever.
it's like,
who cares?
Yeah.
Like the sun still comes up and everything. And
Exactly.
also, it was also weird soon after that because that was when we were on tour. We were out and about at like a bar one night after a show, and then like a random dude tripped down the stairs, and it's kind of funny. So like I let out a little laugh, and then the guy looked up at me and he goes, "At least I don't get fucking night terrors."
Oh my
And he
God.
walked off, and that was the first time I ever got recognized, and I was like, wow. Like I got stunned. I got stunned so hard. Like there's no coming back from that. He knows this intimate detail about me. I'm just like,
At least
wow.
I'll get fucking night
He
terrors.
just cooked me. There's nothing that I could say.
Oh, that's
He won.
so funny. Oh my God. I bet Carlos was relieved to finally not be the
I know. Carlos puts it on himself. He tells all that
true.
himself. He like, that's what he does.
Yeah. No, it's so funny.
That's
it's
why we
like
love him. He's
I
the
feel like
best.
you guys are the little brothers of the group.
No, it's fun. It is really, yeah, it feels that way. All right, those are my 3 ingredients. How much time have we done for
I
real?
know.
That's literally half the show. It's been like 30 minutes. We have so many questions to ask
I'm
you
sorry.
too.
No,
I'll
it's
be more
been
concise.
amazing. No, I love it.
Listen,
I
this
just-
is the last episode of the day. We can go long.
Yeah, we
All
can
right,
go
this is gonna be a
hard.
This is
4-hour
a great-
episode, guys.
This is gonna be a 4-hour
episode.
episode.
This is gonna be huge. This is gonna do big numbers, guys.
I know. What was your most memorable meal with Bobby and Santino on the road?
Oh man, that's actually. There's so many. I mean, I honestly don't know how to pronounce half the meals we had because they're so like fancy.
You're
like
so fancy.
I didn't know like it's so different, especially like the food that you eat. Like we didn't even like when I was growing up, we didn't go out a lot. We especially didn't go out like in Minneapolis. Like we
Yeah.
just like we would go out to like the local bar and eat like food. Like that's like. There's so much stuff that I didn't know about, like foie gras. Like I had that in
Foie
Chicago.
gras?
I don't think that's legal out here, but it was in Illinois when I worked on that movie. I had foie gras, and I was just like, also like bone marrow. I was like, isn't that the thing? Like the my sister's keeper or whatever. Didn't she need that? Wasn't that the whole movie? She needed bone marrow. I'm like, people eat bone marrow. That's crazy.
Bone marrow transplant for cancer.
Yeah, I was like, that's good, but it's delicious.
That's so funny because that's always what I think about when I order bone marrow butter.
Yeah, it's like that. Like,
I'm
shouldn't
like,
we give this
wait.
to that girl from my sister's keeper? What are we doing eating this?
cancer girl needs
yeah,
it. Why are we eating
like
the
we should
bone
be
marrow?
allocating it. It feels like like when the rich people are eating all the resources. Literally, like it's not
You're like,
good.
no, guys.
I'm gonna bag this up and bring this to the hospital. Like I'm not gonna do this. But they had a lot of like caviar is crazy, like just like wine. Like I just sit there sometimes and just like. So like I drink like shitty light beer. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes it'd be like, I'd just order a Bud Light every time we'd go out. And they're like, you can get
And then
something nice.
And then all of a sudden
I'd
you're
get,
with
like,
Santino's kind of a whiskey snob.
Oh my God, that's really cool though. Like he is this friend Chris who comes. He's like a whiskey expert, and he comes with like this Indiana Jones satchel that opens up full of like 6 different bottles of whiskey that are like just like he's talking about crazy like aged and like barrels and stuff and. Like you learn how to drink, you hold it in your mouth with no ice and it burns, but it's like it's mixing with your spit, so like it tastes better or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, every
know
time
about that.
because I honestly I don't like being on set, so I don't like run into the guys that often. But every time I see Santino, it gives me like a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah,
So
he gave me a bottle of whiskey one time, and I'm not a whiskey drinker, and he was like, they might sponsor Whiskey and Ginger. And
Yeah,
I
don't
was
say
just
the brand name, 'cause I don't
I'm
know
not
if they-
going to say the
yeah.
brand name, but it was disgusting.
Yeah, I got that
I was
one too.
like, don't let this. I was like,
So funny. Well, that's the thing. Like I get so much stuff from him, and it's some of the nicest things I've ever owned or had my hands on.
He's so generous.
He
He's
is.
like
Yeah.
they're both the best human beings.
Yeah, I
on
bought
earth.
him because he's
Yeah.
gonna do this show, and I already bought him like a fancy bottle of whiskey as a gift
Yeah.
for when he comes and does it.
It's crazy, but it is cool. Like a lot. Like I just like it's fun because I feel so out of my element in places like that still. So it's fun, and I think that makes other people kind of enjoy it too. Like I even remember out here, like I had a friend who had some connection to this really nice restaurant in Santa Monica, and they'd sometimes have these big like dinners where we'd all go out there, and it was like because they're friends of the family or whatever, they would all like be covered or whatever. And then I remember the first time I was there, I was wearing like an old Mac Miller shirt with a hole I got from a firework hitting me. And I had a rope belt. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I was eating oysters. I didn't know what they had sand in it. It was good though. But I was just like, I'm out of my element here. But it's always fun.
I'm just
but I also
from
don't know how to
Wisconsin.
say, when people are like, what's the best thing you had? I'm like, I have no idea how to pronounce any of that stuff.
Right.
But it was delicious. They just give me stuff and I'm like, this is good. Or even in Chicago, I worked at one of the oldest Italian restaurants in Chicago, the oldest Italian village on 71st West Monroe Street in Chicago. And like Al Capone had his own booth upstairs. It's been open since I think 1917. It's great. But like after, they're all like, it's still in the family. And like, it was one of my favorite things because like after I would get off a shift there, like I got to eat a like amazing meal. But at the time I'd just be like, just bring me something. I don't know like what any of this means. Or sometimes people would ask me for recommendations and I'd be like, I'm going to be honest. I have no idea. I just ate a McRib for lunch across the street because they're back.
Because they're back.
Because they're back, and there's one right next to the Blue Line station. It's right across the street from this place. But I don't get my meal till after. But anything you get here is going to be delicious. And then when people be like, oh, we're going to the Italian Village, what should I get? I'm like, I don't know, ask Geraldo. He was going to hook you up with something good.
Right.
Like,
have you eaten at Dantana's in Hollywood? West Hollywood?
I bet it's good.
It's good.
It's good. I do feel like...
right when you walk in, there's a picture of James Gandolfini. So
that's how you know it's a good spot.
Yeah, signed pictures.
I do feel like one of the great things about Chicago, I definitely think it's one of the best food cities in America. And I haven't been in a lot of, lived in a lot of cities in America, only Otsego, Chicago, and here. But
no, I've heard like, especially being a cook, like many of cooks have told me like Chicago's a pretty good food mecca.
100%. But I also feel like this, and maybe I'll have a different perspective on this because you're more in the restaurant industry or you're more in the, cooking and food and everything. But it's just like, every city in America has great expensive restaurants, but what really, determines a good food city is how good their cheap eats are. Yeah. And Chicago has so many amazing, like I was living there in college. Like I ate at so many amazing spots that were just like holes in the wall, but are just like so good and like family owned and just like they've been doing it for like years and years and years. And there's so many just diverse different types of like just specific cuisine that are just from so many different places, and it's just like it's amazing, and it didn't break the bank. Out here, I feel like there's not that much. I might just not know about a lot of spots, but I also am from the Midwest, so I like a lot of cheese and dairy and stuff, and that's not the coastal elitist stomachs can't handle it.
No,
they can't. They cannot handle the Minnesota State Fair.
I will explode my pants. No, that's kind of why I love New York, though. New York has a lot of, I feel like
100%.
everywhere I can walk into a random spot, or that, and there's just, you're going to have a good food experience in New York.
You haven't been to Chicago, or have you not been to Minnesota then, probably?
No, definitely not Minnesota.
You got to the state fair. It's incredible. They got like deep fried butter, deep fried Oreos. They got like, there's like a miracle of life thing where there's just like cows giving birth and like people are just like eating deep fried Twinkies and drinking milk.
Midwest shit I've ever
It's amazing.
heard.
It's huge.
It sounds like it should just be called the Midwest Fest.
That'll be our first big Patreon goal.
Yeah.
To go to
the Minnesota State Fair.
We'll film an episode there and do a vlog.
It's the best.
I'm gonna have to like take so much antacids.
It'll be so worth it. Or like Quick
make
Trips
me try stuff
with a K in Minnesota. That's like it's like a Wisconsin thing. There's a Quick Trip with a Q in the South, but in like Wisconsin and in Minnesota and up there, Quick Trip with a K. There's so much great like tall like.
You would think the South would be with the K. Sorry, that was bad.
It's a lot of cheese, a lot of cheese and dairy. And then my friends who go out there from like Boston and New York, they're like their stomachs can't handle it, but it's so good it's always worth it.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway, it's worth it. The food is worth it.
Okay. Noted.
Juicy Lucy in Matt's, Minneapolis. It's like
You're speaking a different language.
I know. I mean, we're talking food now. You know?
We are. We're talking
into food. Juicy
You're like,
Lucy,
okay. You're like, I'm just
local.
trying to steer it in the right direction.
It's a great it's a local spot. Like Juicy Lucy is just basically just like a cheese is cooked inside the burger, and it's like molten lava when you bite it, and it squirts out, and it just like it burns your face. But it's like it's a staple, and it's delicious. Tater tot hot dish. That's a great old casserole, Midwest. Tater tot hot dish. It's the best.
How are you not?
I know.
500 pounds.
It's crazy. Metabolism. It's stunned me. I don't know how.
Jesus.
I'm gonna survive if it ever if I ever lose it.
Yeah, and can you teach me this ability to just eat whatever you want?
And I'm like, what is happening? Why? What was school lunch like for you growing up?
School lunch was pretty decent.
Pretty decent.
Pretty decent. I also I'll eat anything.
Deep fried Oreos.
Yeah, I'm kind of a garbage can. Like I'll eat a lot of food. I'm not too particularly picky. There's always things I enjoyed, but also like towards a certain point, like there was a lot of school lunch changes when I was going to high school. So a lot of it, and I started bringing stuff. I'd bring a lot of soup in a thermos for breakfast every day. And I started doing this again because it's very easy. I would make 4 Eggos, and then I'd put chocolate chips on 2 of them and make 2 sandwiches and wrap them in tin foil, and I'd eat them in my first class. And I started doing that again. And then
recently?
Yeah, and some of my roommates are like, it's probably not a good idea to just start eating like 500 chocolate chips every morning. Because even if you don't gain weight, you still feel terrible. I'm like, oh, why do I hurt? It's just like, that's probably why I still eat.
My arteries are starting to do things.
Exactly. I might die. But
I might die.
But eventually, towards the end of my time in high school, I was doing... I was always doing video stuff, and then my junior and senior year of high school, I would do a lot of work on our school news, and that was really just like an excuse for me to like. I liked doing the school projects when I was like in middle school and stuff because again it was like an audience of people that were not like my friends. Right. Like they were friends, but they weren't like my close friends. They're just like,
so you get more of an honest feedback.
Yeah, and I'll just be like saying, and then if things worked in front of all of them, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. And then eventually it was like, oh, you can do this to an entire school and staff. Mm-hmm. And I also just like I loved SNL. I was always like been like one of my favorite shows as a kid, and it was like a fun way, and it was like a fun loose way to be able to like shoot like intro parodies or music parodies or all this different type of stuff, and like in a way that was like there was a lot of like freedom in it, and also like the people there, the staff were really cool, and I really will always be very like thankful for them because they would do a lot of dumb things that I'd tell them to do, and they were excited to do it, and like anyway, I spent a lot of time doing that, so eventually I would just eat lunch in there while I would edit.
Oh, okay.
That would just work because I also was doing like cross country and track and stuff after school, but that didn't start till an hour after because the middle schoolers would come over and do it as well as like the whole team. So we had an hour to kill, so that'd give me time to shoot stuff after school as well. But I was like just as stressed, like how I don't sleep because I'm always editing or working. That's been a consistent in my life ever since I was young, and it's just because I put it on myself. It's not like I never had to do these things, but I was enjoying it. Yeah, like I loved exactly. I love the pain.
Anybody who moves to LA, I think, kind of hates themselves a little bit.
Exactly. Enough. Yeah. The right amount. There's a right amount to hit.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I feel every time I see Bobby or Santino. They're like, I'm so swamped. I'm like, you definitely have enough money to like take some time off. Yeah. I don't feel bad.
But it is also just like it's a good time. So you got to strike when the iron's hot and do all this. And that's
for sure. And also, again, I feel like when you're a creative, you just like I feel like because I feel this way, you're afraid to like go too long without doing something because you feel like, well, in Hollywood, it's like you want to stay relevant, or you at least have to just to make money, but also we are just all on the spectrum and need something to focus on.
Exactly.
We're all always like...
You're only as funky as your last cut. You got to keep putting out stuff.
Exactly. Who in your family do you get your creative side from?
That's a good question. Definitely, both my parents are great. They're the best. I was just talking to them on the phone. They're amazing. And they both aren't really in the creative space. My mom is a special ed teacher, and my dad is like an event director for the Special Olympics in Minnesota. And so they both just do a lot. My dad does a lot of like event work. He's always kind of done like event directing in that type of regard. So that is kind of similar to like some film stuff. But they also have always been like super encouraging on stuff. But I guess like further back, I love watching back old like family videos that they would shoot because I realize certain things that I do when I shoot stuff like doc stuff in the same way. Like they always did a good job of like going up to whatever music was playing at the time, or going up to the TV, seeing what kind of was on, or what even like what we were watching, or if even before we were born, it's like stuff with them and their friends, like what they're watching or what news was on. Because it's really cool to like ground it in time, because we're living in like an amazing time where this is truly the first time that I feel like there are nature documentaries about humans, because we're so used to cameras now, and cameras are so subtle. Like documentary stuff back in the day, used to require a lot more lighting and sound equipment. Now it's much more subtle to where people kind of act like themselves, and it's really one of the first times that we can time travel, because we can capture all of this stuff in time, and they always did a really good job of contextualizing that, and the context makes everything so much better. So when they would do things like that, I see myself doing that in different ways, and I think it's really cool and interesting. And also, they were always just really good at being like, just like down to like, if I'd be like, oh, I want to watch this, like you guys should watch this movie, and they'd be like, sit down and be like, okay, like there, or if it was black and white, they'd be like, we'll give it 15 minutes, and I'm like, you'll be in, you'll be sucked in. It's Strangers on a Train. It's amazing. It is a great inciting incident. You're gonna get so sucked in.
Yeah.
But also, my Uncle Jerry is very artistic, and he's a really great graphic designer and artist. And he actually designed one of the, I help out do some of the Bad Friends merch. And he drew, we did like a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Ralph Steadman kind of homage. And he like drew that. And it was really cool, like getting the thing that he did on all that. Because it is just like definitely a major influence like that. A lot of my older cousins were super into like stand up and film and stuff. And like when I was really into like getting into stand up, like, like in middle school, like Dave Attell and like, Patrice and Geraldo and Louis and a lot of these guys from back in the day, they were already like, and like SNL and stuff, my older cousins were already like, they were in high school and they've been like watching those guys, and they were people that I could talk to, because a lot of kids my age weren't like super into that stuff at the time. Like really like weird Bush era political comedy that I was just like, it gave me like, I didn't really know what was funny about it, but I was like, this is funny. I'm like, I enjoy it. Like, it's so like, so much of that is ingrained in my head that I'm just like, where did that come from?
They're doing subjects that everyone else was like,
yeah, exactly.
We're so serious and so, and honestly, I mean, that's even how I feel about South Park these days. I'm like, that's the only thing I use to learn about the world.
Yeah, exactly. I also gotta say Mitch Hedberg, shout out Minnesota legend Mitch Hedberg, one of the GOATs. From St. Paul.
Minnesota.
You betcha. Coen Brothers, Judy Garland, Bob Dylan, Prince. Got a lot of legends.
Prince, that is true. I'm supposed to go to
Paisley Park?
No, tomorrow. Some showing of Purple Rain that Questlove.
So sick. Yeah, that was all shot. I mean, that was all around Minneapolis. The club that was all shot in is First Ave. And that's like an amazing concert venue in Minneapolis. Like you're so close up to the action. I saw like Echo and the Bunnymen there with my dad.
Oh, that's sick.
I saw Denzel Curry there, like when he was doing his Taboo tour, and that's just like, it's such a great venue. And yeah, great music scene, Minneapolis. Replacements.
Yeah, there are legends.
Judy Garland, I think I already
Judy
said that
Garland.
one.
Is she?
She's from Minnesota. All these people are from Minnesota.
Okay.
Trust me.
Trust me.
I think Jessica Biel's from Minnesota. I think she's from Ely.
Wow.
Up on the border with Canada.
What are some unpopular food opinions you have? We need to get bone marrow to the cancer patients.
I know, yeah. That's the big one. That's the one I prepared. The answer I prepared.
You just stop eating the bone marrow.
I like milk. I drink milk. Like sometimes. Like I remember when I was in college.
Before bed or like
I
for
ordered
breakfast?
Not before bed, but like I mean like I remember in college I ordered like a cheese pizza and I was drinking it with a glass of milk and people looked at me like it was cannibalism, like it was crazy. But I was
that's just so much dairy. I think everyone's just like, how are you not exploding?
I think that's probably it. I'm like I like cheese and dairy and stuff. And like when I went, my friend Elliot just had a bachelor party and I just flew back and I landed at midnight and then we drove up to the Canadian border immediately. So I landed at midnight, got home by 1 a.m. and my friend picked me up at 2. So I had a little bit of time. So we stopped at a Quick Trip and I got their smallest glass of like the smallest thing of chocolate milk you can get is literally this big. It's huge and then it just gets bigger. So I got one of those things of chocolate milk. I got 2 cheese-filled breadsticks and I got, they have a thing of cheese curds and just like chopped up like little sausages. And I ate all of that and then I felt terrible. And I was just like, I should have like weaned myself onto the dairy. I shouldn't have just dove right in the deep end. It was way too much.
Oh my God.
And I also hadn't slept. So it was just like, it was a recipe for disaster.
That's why you have night terrors.
I know, it actually could be. That's that girl that when I was on TikTok that would record herself night sleepwalking, she would induce it by eating cheese before. That actually might have something to do with it. Wow. I'm never going to stop eating cheese. I'm sorry.
You might as well start recording yourself for TikTok then.
Yeah, I know.
Make some money off these awful night terrors.
I know. Do something with them.
Do something. Otherwise, the boys are just going to keep using that as material.
That's okay.
If you could delete one food from the world, what would it be?
I don't think any food should be deleted from the world because it's just like, even if I don't like it, maybe other people like it. Like,
Right.
I don't care.
Wow, you're so considerate.
I don't have that intensive food opinions.
Right.
I'm sorry. You're not going to get your controversial food takes from me, guys.
I know
it's a
Wrong
gotcha
guest
podcast. Yeah, I'm not playing your games.
I'm not playing your games.
Hold on, let me think. I could maybe give
We're
you
not
guys
getting
an
political
answer.
in here.
Sorry. I'm staying away from it. My publicist told me not to answer that question.
Oh, I thought you weren't media trained.
I know. This is all a front. I'm a great actor. I've been acting like I'm so nervous this whole time. No, I don't know. What food should be deleted? I don't know. I had tofu the other day. It wasn't remarkable, but it also wasn't too bad. I mean, like, they were like, you're going to hate it. And then I tried it and I was like, oh yeah. Like, I mean, I'm going to eat around it. I'm going to eat the rest of the stuff in the bowl. Like, it's really fine.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, I don't find any foods offensive, I guess.
That's nice.
Don't eat people? I don't know. Is that considered
unpopular
a food?
opinion, cannibalism.
Yeah, cannibalism. I maybe don't.
It's not hot.
Yeah, McKone wants to delete all people. You heard that right now.
Shit, that is what I said.
We got the clip. We gotcha.
Fuck. You're good, man. You're fucking good.
I've been doing this for a while,
God,
man. This is my first rodeo.
The media's gonna rip you apart.
Damn it.
You're done, man. This is it for you.
You're done.
I'm walking out of here, guys.
I know.
I can't get my water open. My hands are too sweaty now.
Oh, no. It's all that dairy.
I know.
I am just
pouring out of my pores.
I just hate that I can't eat that much dairy.
That's your one you delete?
No.
What would you delete?
There's a good
I actually don't know you that well.
Yeah.
It's good to talk to you. How you doing?
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. We'll occasionally talk in the DMs. It's like when you went to that Mos Def concert where you did Doom. That's so sick.
Yeah, in
I
Paris.
can't believe you were there.
That was super
That was
fun.
one of my first concerts I saw too. I saw Mos Def in St. Paul, and that when I was in high school, and that was such an amazing show. It was so sick.
I almost punched an Irish girl.
You know.
I know.
The Irish will make you do that, man.
Yeah.
I know.
She thought I was trying to like get in front of her at the concert, and she threw her big fat arm, and I was like, you know what? I will throw hands right now.
Yeah, it's also a concert, you know. And some people are just like, it's just like everyone's bumping into each other. We're in GA.
So when people, there was
Go in the back if
there
you're
wasn't
like-
even no VIP. It was because it was like this secret pop up he was doing in Paris. Also, I was like, "You're Irish, get out."
All right, I'm leaving.
Well, I was like, I'm in Paris. I don't know. Maybe I should have not been there either then, but I felt like I had more of a right to be there than she did. I don't know why. I'm just like, why are the Irish here?
We're everywhere.
Yeah. You're Minnesotan.
My name is McKone Corkery. I'm also
McKone
pretty
Corkery.
Irish.
That's pretty freaking Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do consider myself more of a Minnesotan than an Irish
Have you been to the motherland?
Because no, I haven't. I've not.
Okay.
I've only left the country twice, and they were both to Canada, which is basically Minnesota. And they were both within the last year because of Bad Friends and touring.
Bad Friends needs to take it to a different country.
I'm going to Australia in November.
So
that'll
doesn't
be
count.
Crazy. That's like...
I mean, like, I want to see Bob and Andrew do some, like... They need to go to South Korea.
I know. Well,
I'm going to South Korea next week.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm just going to take pictures of every Korean boy I see and say, and tag Bobby. I mean,
He's
like,
gonna
oh my
love
God.
that.
Yeah. As long as it's not a Japanese person.
Yeah, that'd be crossing the line.
Yeah.
He would not appreciate that.
No, it's okay. It's funny because I'm like the only Asian I have in my genetics is Japanese.
Whoa.
So sometimes I feel like he hates me just for that. I'm like, you didn't text me back. Is it because I'm part Japanese?
It's probably something to do with it. Yeah.
And then I texted him a very nice happy birthday message, and he just texted me back a heart. And then I was like, oh, you should come by the food truck. He's like, what? It's like, never mind. Sorry, I should have just left it at that.
That's how he texts, though. That's just.
I know.
That's such a typical.
No, but that's why I'm like, I like to just pretend like he hates me. Anytime I see him, I'm like, you hate me. I know you hate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't have hate in his heart.
I know. He's a sweet, sweet little fluffy
He
man.
is.
The first time me and Bob met, I did not expect what happened next.
That's typically how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, I was there with, you know, Brent Morin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was there with Brent at the Comedy Store. And Bobby did a set, Brent did a set, and then they're outside at the little outdoor patio. And Brent texted me, he's like, hey, Bobby wants to say hi. And I thought it was to Sawyer because I was like, I think Stella was just on TigerBelly. So I was like, oh, he's probably talking about Sawyer. I walk outside, Bobby immediately walks up to me and shakes my hand. I was like, I'm a really big fan.
That's so
He's like, I love
funny.
your team scene. I was like, it's like, what just happened? And then we like went to dinner a few days later, and I was like, because we was not in that way. We went to dinner, and I was telling him that I wanted to start doing stand up and stuff, and he's just been a good pal since. But that first time, and then now he's like, I can't watch your videos. It's disgusting.
That's one thing Bobby and I share is like once I start working with someone, it's like okay, I can't look at your other stuff. Like I need I need to see a different version of you.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to see your
Also,
pants.
it's
I want
like-
to see you take your pants off.
Yeah.
It's also like I see enough of you. Like
see
no
enough of
shade.
you.
Like I
Yeah.
love you, but like I'm not gonna like I don't watch Bad Friends anymore. Like I'm there.
No,
Like I don't
you're
need to.
there.
I
well,
get
you're
it.
literally there.
Yeah,
but
that was one of the main.
That was kind of like me too. Like honestly, I loved Whiskey Ginger. I never really listened to Bad Friends because honestly, it was overstimulating to listen to.
It's great.
I'm like, I'm not on enough drugs to listen to this podcast. But I always, and honestly, like Santino's been a big inspo for me with how I do this show.
Yeah.
I think he's very good at getting people to be vulnerable on Whiskey Ginger.
It's so great. And it's like, it's so fun doing both because it really is like,
Yeah.
it is a very different
Chaos,
atmosphere.
and then it's like
And
a
like-
little more professional.
Yeah, exactly. And the chaos is so fun, but also it's fun. And because that's also an opportunity, like, I've like to like meet some of these people that like
Yeah.
I've been listening to forever. Like
Yeah.
like Lewis Black was on, or like Dana Carvey.
hell
Like the
yeah.
Dana Carvey one was crazy because it's just like I'm in there in the room and Dana's doing his impressions and he's like looking into the room. So he's looking at Andrew and then he looks me in the eyes and I'm just like, oh my God. He's doing Bush and he's looking me in the like he's doing an impression to me. Like I couldn't fathom this. I'm like, if
Party
middle
on,
school
Wayne,
me, no,
party
yeah, exactly.
on,
Like
Garth.
this is the most unbelievable thing that's ever could have transpired. I cannot
You should have
believe this
dressed
is
up
happening.
like Wayne.
I always try to just not
Not be
do
weird.
too much.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
also
why the ingredients.
Yeah.
Be chill. He's
That's-
like,
that's the
I can't
thing.
show
Yeah, I
up
try
dressed
to-
up like Wayne.
try to play
And
it.
be
Yeah,
like,
try to
party on,
play it
Garth.
more chill. Be in the back.
Yeah, that's true.
That's even like Bad Friend. Like
I honestly thought you were mute for the longest time. I was like, is he just not talk?
whenever I talk, I'm like, I have like a mini panic attack before I do it. Like it's so terrifying. But like I originally just would like hang out there because I just loved the show. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna watch the show. And then if you're in the room, they will
Roast you?
talk about you. Yeah, they will talk shit about you. And it's
They'll
just
acknowledge
like
your existence.
yeah. So and then you're just kind of there, and sometimes they're like say something. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm not
Oh,
like
no.
with some of the best like comedic improvisers
I
like
know.
around. It's
You're
just
I
like
just have to
and then eventually,
chat.
but then eventually you learn kind of like your place on the show and like what like kind of they want you to do with the bit.
Yeah.
'Cause it
They
really-
definitely don't need you stealing the spotlight. Those two
No,
will
exactly.
fire
Well,
you.
that's all. Yeah, and that's also like
They're both way too
Yeah.
they're both divas.
yeah.
Love them, but
But that's also like what like that's not even like I will always be there on the pod because it's so fun to watch how it goes, and also like I help me and Carlos and Fancy help plan bits for the show and help like you know we'll make stuff.
Those are my
before
favorite
and
boys.
we'll plan stuff. It's so fun being involved in trying to like. Because you can't like write them a thing. You got to be
No.
like, we have to set up a situation to get a certain outcome. You're never gonna be like,
Yeah.
hey, we're gonna do this, and you guys are gonna you're gonna act
You
like
guys
this, and you
aren't
guys are gonna
like-
get mad. It's like we have to do something, and
Yeah.
like sometimes it's
somehow they
like yeah,
It's more like you guys have to plant the seed, and then they're gonna
and sometimes it doesn't work, and even if it doesn't work, sometimes
it's still gonna be funny.
Exactly, because everything has to have like, even if it doesn't work, it should work to a point where like they can still yell at us for it afterwards, because then that turns into the bed. It's like, okay, it turns into something else.
Yeah,
killing your babies. in the way of like learning, if your art doesn't work, find a way to make it work.
Killing babies.
Have you not heard that term? Killing your babies. That's a thing. It's a thing they teach it like a spot. It's a thing I learned a lot in two places. It's a thing like in film, like learning to part with certain things that like whatever, like agency or client.
I was like, I made pro-abortion.
We're talking about abortion now.
I was like, damn, those tater tots really got to you.
I went to the political tots yesterday.
Those political tots really got to you.
I've been reading a lot about it yesterday.
You're like, I'm so about this.
And honestly, I think it's crazy what the Supreme Court is doing. It's wild. I didn't know any of it till the tots.
I know.
I was unaware.
I'm so glad that you're aware now about uteruses.
Yeah, but it's about being learned, because so much, especially like when we're on set shooting stuff, a lot of it happens on set too. It's like nothing's gonna go exactly how it goes. No. You have to improvise and also be still like find a way to be excited about it still. If you're excited about a thing going one way and then be like, but we can't do this, you'd be like, all right, I got to get excited about this in a different way and also make it we got to get this done quicker. That's what a lot of it is like getting it done quicker. And that's like certain people are like so amazing at, like Spielberg is like one of the best at doing like really subtle long takes and combining like a wide and like single shots together, and just by like moving the camera and just doing so much stuff in camera. And that's a lot of like on set, and it's fun to do stuff like that. And you just have to do it more when you're shooting on film, because film is expensive. And now if you have a big enough budget, you don't have to do it as much because everything's digital and you can just keep shooting from a bunch of different coverage and a bunch of different angles. But it also, in a lot of cases, it doesn't help aid the story. Sometimes it really does help aid the story when there's a lot of fast cutting and a lot of things. But sometimes like scenes don't play out, and like actors are like incredible. We want to see people on screen interacting in a way like that's the scene playing out. If it's all chopped up, it's different scenes coming together, different intentions are happening on those. They're playing it different ways and they're reacting to a different take. And sometimes you can tell, and it's like, oh, this feels kind of weird. Yeah. But also a lot of it is just like it's like you don't have to do that now because of the technology, but in some ways it was kind of better for certain type of movies, and especially certain type of performers. Like some of those oneers that used to go on with actors just like in these wides are just like amazing. But also the film language now, people, can't really, like some people can't handle it now. Like people need it to be quick, cut down. Like some of these old movies are just like one long master, especially back in like the 40s, like great golden age Hollywood stuff. It's just like, it's like as amazing as this is and as like incredible as these performers are, like people can't take shit seriously anymore, unfortunately, because of the...
Anytime I watch movies from that time period, I'm just like, if I could go experience one time period, it would be the golden age of Hollywood, and like see what it's like to be on those sets and see how much fucking work went into those movies.
Crazy.
And the acting and just, I don't know. Because I'm also thinking about, I'm like, wow, like now you can do as many takes as you need, but you could not. You can only afford so many. So,
and not like it's worse now. It's just different.
And also I feel like specifically in adult entertainment, but now with just any sort of entertainment, people mostly want to be famous. People aren't. Yeah. You meet a few of the diamonds in the rough that are in it because they just want to act, and they are in it for the craft most of the time, though. And why people are like, why are there no good movies anymore? I'm like, because people just want to be famous. People aren't. It's rare to come across someone that you're like that. Like I haven't really seen a talent. I think the youngest person I could think of that I ever saw and was like, that's a movie star was Zendaya.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like I was like, that's an actress. That's a girl that's in it for the craft. This is a girl who just, whether she gets an award or not, she's just gonna go to work tomorrow and pretend like, you know, she's in it for the game.
100%. But also the way we consume media is so different now, in the way that it is very like celebrity based versus like the actual, you know, I mean, this has been said 1,000 times on different people's podcasts, but you're going to see like a superhero movie. You're not going to see like a Tom Cruise picture or whatever anymore.
I'm not going to see either one.
Top Gun Maverick was great. He's the last remaining movie star.
Who is? Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise, unfortunately.
Yeah.
know.
As much as I like the movies, the only time I go now is when it's like a director who still knows how to make movies that are designed to be seen at the theater.
Yeah.
You know, like 1917 is like that. You have to see that movie at the theaters.
But still, something like one of my favorite theatrical experiences in a long time was me and my roommate went to go see Bottoms, knowing nothing about it, just hearing it was so funny. And the theater it's so good, it's so funny.
Yeah.
And being in an audience where everyone's laughing, like I 100% want to be. I want to be in a theater for everything, but also being in a theater for that is the one that makes the most sense. But also being in a theater for a comedy is, especially a good comedy, is
best.
so
it's
fun.
It's almost therapeutic
because it's a collective experience. That's like going back to the golden age of like it's supposed to be a collective experience. We're all in this together. Or seeing a good horror movie, like I seen Talk to Me in the theaters was amazing because it's just like that was a great horror movie, and then everyone's in it, and you could still get that like if you want every time if you go to like the Vista or go to the New Beverly and go with a bunch of film lovers to like an old screening of that, which like is so fun. I love doing that. I live on the east side right by...
Spike Lee, I think, just opened up a theater in New York.
Oh, really? That's so sick. He did a thing. I wish I had cable because he just did a thing on Turner Classic Movies last night where he talked about Dr. Strangelove. And I'm just like, wow, Spike Lee talking about opening up like a Kubrick movie? Like that's incredible. I love Turner Classic Movies. So
we
good.
were talking earlier about, what was it?
Oh, doing the dolly shot.
Yeah, I was like, we should.
It's amazing.
I was like, because they were asking me if I would ever direct corn movies, and I was like, yeah, if I got to do stuff like that. But I was like, that'd be really funny.
Yeah, it'd be so funny. Like
the
machine shot, yeah, and then you do the
dollies, the way it's just a girl with just her face painted. It's just.
Or do like the Spielberg Jaws Zolly, like when he notices the shark and it comes in the background.
No,
goes
I feel like everyone would be like, whoa, jump scare.
Or like you can shoot it from behind it happens or you can do it from like a side angle or something and do a split diopter so you can see half of their face and thing. You know, a split diopter?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite practical gags in like cinema. Like I thought that was like I didn't know it was. Can you show a picture of a split diopter shot, like a De Palma shot or something? Just in the edit. I don't know if it's gonna be up there. But
fine.
It's so cool, and it looks like a thing that they do in post, but it's just like it's all like math, you know? It's just like a split diopter is just like a magnifying glass, and it's just over half the lens. So when you put it on the lens, both of these things can be in focus if the camera's, but it's only at a really specific distance. So this can be in focus and this. There's a lot of those in Carrie. Brian De Palma used them all the time.
Yeah.
Spielberg did a lot of great ones. There's some in Jaws.
Did you guys know that Brian De Palma is the reason why George Lucas has the
scroll, because he was like, none of this makes any sense.
Yeah, he's like, he's like,
I hate this. This movie's terrible.
Yeah, it was Brian De Palma's idea.
That's the best time of film after like, and I was really sad you were talking about the golden era of Hollywood.
Honestly, maybe like the 70s and 80s would be actually where I want to be.
Like, there's so many my favorite decades, and this is so, like, just classic film Twitter. You're going to see the same opinion everywhere, but it's just like the 70s, the 90s, and the 40s. I love the 40s. I'm such a big film noir fan. I love the German Expressionism of the 30s and early 40s, and, like, I just love that kind of, like, the Humphrey Bogart, the detective stuff, Double Indemnity, Billy Wilder, one of the best writer-directors of all time. Like, Billy Wilder's so incredible. Some Like It Hot, not noir, but that's one of the best screenplays of all time.
Yeah.
It's like a comedy with high stakes, you know?
Yes.
They're being chased they witnessed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and they have to, you know, it's a comedy that they're going to get shot. Like, it's great. Like, it's like, raise the stakes.
Raise the stakes.
And it's ridiculous, but it's a movie. That's like, people like...
It's entertainment.
Don't take a movie, like it seems like in the mainstream, a lot of, you know, filmmakers are so scared to take themselves seriously. That's why they all have to break the fourth wall. And it's just like... You're making a silly... You guys are playing pretend. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, believe in your thing. Like, don't be scared. It's just like... It's a bunch of adults dressed up playing pretend. And that's fine. We're all in on it. That's what the art form is.
We're all in on it. Yeah. They're like, you don't need to convince anyone.
And that's one thing that that it comes into style. Like what I love Kubrick so much. And the way that, like... he directs his actors, like sometimes it's so over the top, like it's not objectively good realistic acting, but it's so perfect for the weird world. Like the first few times I saw like Clockwork or 2001, I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of, I'm like, that really kind of, that made me feel weird. Like I was like, that's just like this, why is he doing this? I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And then I was thinking about it so much, I'm like, oh my God, I like learned, I'm just like, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like I love like the way that none of this feels like real, and it's like a bizarro world, and just like also like
kind of makes you feel unsettled the whole time. Yeah,
I grew up in a time where like they didn't like zoom that much, and like it was a lot of just like dollying. And then I remember being like, that zooms on our all-year-old cameras, and I'm like, oh, not a lot of movies in like the 2000s were heavily using zooms. There's a lot more dollies because dollies feel more naturalistic and more cinematic and everything. And a zoom is so aggressive. Zooms are so like noticeable. And then Kubrick used so many zooms, and I'm like, God, it's so weird. It looks so like cheesy or whatever. And then I like that became like one of my favorite things of all time. Like I love a crash zoom. I love just like, or even like the slow zooms in Barry Lyndon are unbelievable. They're so good. I saw Barry Lyndon on 35 millimeter at the Egyptian in Hollywood earlier this year, and it was so amazing. It's one of the best. Have you seen Barry Lyndon?
Actually haven't.
It's so good. Have you seen the 21 Savage a lot edit to it?
No.
It's so good, and it's like somebody cut together like 21's verse from a lot and 2 scenes of Barry Lyndon, and it fits in perfectly to the story that 21 Savage is saying to like a hilarious degree, but just to these like very like period piece Kubrick-y shots, and it's
that's so funny,
amazing. But one really cool thing about seeing it in film was it was shot, you know, it was shot on 35 mil, but it was presented in 4:3 there, and I've only seen like the Blu-ray of it is cropped down to 16:9 just because on typical scan, and it was also. It was purposely, things were still shot like that, kind of like in a way that vital information isn't going to be lost at the tops and bottoms of the frame, but it still is just like a lot of Nolan movies do that now. Like if you see like Oppenheimer in theaters or all that, like the IMAX stuff, it's going to be cropped down for Blu-ray to fit your whole HD TV because it's not just going to be, whole thing isn't going to be presented in 4:3 just because it's just lost when you're not in the theater. But it was just like amazing getting to see like more, like these shots I've seen 100 times and I love so much. It's like, I didn't even know it was gonna happen. I was like, no way, I'm seeing more frame. This is the craziest thing ever.
It's almost like seeing a whole other movie.
Exactly. There's so much extra, just like these beautiful shots have another layer of beauty to them. Like it's crazy.
It really does add a lot, because that's the way that they intended the movie to be seen. So it really does, like you might not think, but adding just a little bit more like really does change a lot of how scenes are.
You still get the story, but it's like subtle aesthetic things. It's still like it's a much more complete work.
Yeah. Even like I love very annoying comparison, but honestly lately on Instagram or TikTok, they'll take like their favorite good scenes of each movie and then make it like if it was filmed for TikTok.
Yeah. I am going to disagree.
Oh, this is interesting.
Because composition-wise, it's a lot. It is cool, but I always think those shots are objectively much worse because it's often like things that were shot wide and there's just dead air on the top and bottom.
That's true.
And
I don't know. I kind of like that.
I get it's fun. It's cool.
I like how it looks
it's
so
cool,
kind of just because.
But I just personally.
It's the only time where I realize this is its own little tiny world.
Exactly. Well, it is interesting because sometimes they create like frames within frames, like other thing. Like it is completely changing, but a lot of it is just like so much composition is so, and that's the other thing that's kind of weird and it's been interesting navigating in the past couple of years. I used to be so like annoying about like, I'm not shooting anything vertically. I'm like, that's not like,
now
that's not how you
have
shoot
to
things.
for some stuff.
Yeah.
I always have to make sure I get both.
Yeah, I pick my battles now, but also a lot of it is just kind of like being like, okay, this doesn't need to be like a thing with. I'll give you an example. The last 3 things that I shot for Santino were all 3 of different aspect ratios. The first one, like a month or so ago, we did like a sketch about like crowd work, and that was presented in 4:3 because I wanted that to feel more cinematic. And if I wanted to be really cinematic, you know, I'd do it 16:9 or even like wider screen. But it's like for TikTok and all that, it's just like, or for like Instagram and stuff, it's like everyone's watching it vertically. People aren't going to flip it over the side. And 4:3 is still cinematic. So it's still like in your brain. Then also composition wise, you can still frame things in a way that's like, it feels like there's more interesting ways to do things wide than tall, because based on the way that people sit and frame, you can have more things happening wide than tall. There are certain examples where top and bottom framing would give you more ways for things, but just also that's just film language that had been, you know, in practice for like over 100 years. So that was for that. And then we did a promo for him. It was just like a little sketch of him pitching with like one of his friend's
Cubs?
kids. Yeah, we did that thing where it was him being like, I'm gonna show this kid how like I'm gonna show this kid my fastball, and he kept smacking all the balls like out of the park, and he was getting frustrated. But that I was okay. That's more simple. That's more sketch. I'm like, I can do that vertically, just because I'm like, it's really just gonna be a lot of single shots as well. There's not gonna be any wides. Like I'm not gonna die on any hills for that because it wouldn't add to this sketch. So I'm like, that I'll shoot vertically. And then when I edited together all the Chicago footage of him actually throwing that and that, I'm like, this is more like documentary and it's less cinematic in that regard. So I'll do it square. And sometimes I do that. And again, no one cares about that. Like no one's gonna be like, oh, this feels like way less cinematic because it's vertical. But it is like, it's a little thing in my head where I'm like. But
it's also like, I think it is, but people aren't paying attention to that. But I think there is a certain feel, or like when you look at certain things like that do get more likes or more attention, I think subconsciously people are kind of attracted to certain videos for
100%.
the way you shoot them and square them out.
I'm sure you know this, but a lot of like the new cameras let you film in like open gate now.
I know.
Which cool. For the people who don't know, that lets you film horizontally and vertically at the same time.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit cheaper. Like it's close to where I can almost book. I'll pay for this.
That's the other thing. But a lot of it comes down to composition versus everything. If you compose something vertically, like the wide shot here, we're both in it, and it's cool because you can see both action and reaction happening at the same time. That's what's so great about a lot of those great like Jackie Chan movies are a good example. The original movies that he made, not in America, a lot of action and reaction are happening at the same time, and it makes things funnier, but also makes things more visually interesting because your eyes are this is another weird example, but one of Michael Bay's favorite movies is the original West Side Story. Because your eyes turn into the camera. Because it's a lot of great wide shots with a lot of things happening. You're looking at the beautiful compositions, but you're also looking at individual things in the frame that catch your eyes for specific reasons. But then if like this wide was cut into vertical, then it's just like, I start and stop thoughts so many times. Yeah. This is so confusing.
No,
but when Jackie Chan came to the States and would do it, a lot of times, like if a guy would punch a guy, it'd be like his shot, punch, you see him, punch, and it's like, it works the same, but on a subconscious level, like it's funnier or more interesting if it's all happening at the same time because action and reaction is just, it gives you more information. And that's the thing that could be lost if we cut this, me and you talking vertically, it still is the same thing. I say a thing and then you say, and then you like whatever nod or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's what these are for.
Like, yeah, exactly. But if you're cropping a thing like that into it, you just lose that composition.
Yeah, I think, I wish more people adopted this, but like TigerBelly is my favorite. Like the way that they do the camera work.
Stuff.
Yeah, they do it's really like the security camera thing. Yeah. We tried. I was on the original Dumbfounded team for his podcast, and we tried doing it on that, and then they ended up abandoning that. But I wish someone would just let me do that. Like, listen, it's just better. It's going to look like a security camera. We're going to have the wide and the singles up all at the same time because there's just something about when someone laughs and you can get everyone's reaction in it.
Yeah. Lumi, let him do it, please. He's begging.
I'm okay. Yeah, we can do it. I'll do whatever.
But no, like that gets into the same thing. It is great.
Yeah, because you have to set up for that specifically. It's not just like...
be very confused.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But,
I want to do that.
But it is like... it's cool. But it is like... I don't know. People tell you there's like certain rules. Like things have to be vertical, things have to be this or that, but all of it is just kind of like there's different artistic ways to interpret it, and you might sacrifice a bit of algorithmic love if you do a thing in 4x3 or square versus vertical. But if you are like, a lot of it is just like picking your battles and risk versus reward, and you're like, I want this to look cinematic, so I don't care if this thing is going to get slightly less views than it would if it gets vertical. And that's the other like why I feel so like blessed to be with Andrew and Bobby, because they have such big platforms already. It's like we can experiment with different things like that, and it's not make or break. It's still going to get a lot of views regardless. And then also fans will be like, oh, this is like, it's different, you know? Yeah. So like they already have a built-in fan base that's going to like anything that they put out regardless. So I can kind of experiment more and do things that are like, even if it's not typically what Bobby and Andy do, they're so cool with being just like, oh yeah, let's try that. That sounds cool. And because again, we have similar like artistic tastes and goals with stuff. Like there are certain other like people, it's like, especially in the comedy world, that I love and I think are so funny. But then I also think I'm like, they probably wouldn't let me get like as artsy or like different with it. And it's like, and that's the thing that goes back to earlier about like finding the right people to work with you. It's like
when you find your camera person or you find the right director and that chemistry works, you kind of like don't let them go. Like I feel like I know Bobby was the intro, but like even the way Santino talks about you, he's like, that's my dude. That's my. He's my little baby.
He's the best. Especially like it was cool. It was so great being back in Chicago with his family too, because like like I spent like Thanksgiving at his parents' house. Like we all were there for a show. Bobby, Jesse, Carlos, all of us were there. And then Bobby and Jesse both went to a hotel, but Carlos and I were like, oh yeah, like would love to stay here. And then like his family, they're like a Midwest Irish family. Like they remind me of like my parents and like aunts and uncles and grandparents. Like literally like his mom has the same name as my aunt. Like it's just, like the same. His dad has a bunch of like, he literally reminds me of my grandpa so much. He would like introduce me to other people. Like when we were at like the Chicago like after party, he'd be like, this is McKone. He's a good Irishman. And I'm like, that's literally like what my grandpa would say. He's like literally, and he has like little like Irish like Gaelic things like all around that are spelled like in Irish like around that. It's like same stuff that like we have up at like my grandparents' house and stuff. Like they're no longer alive, but like and when they were alive, it was all like that. So it's like it's a thing where I feel like such a crazy he feels like family in a way that it like I just cannot be he's the best. That's the end of it. That's really about it.
I'm gonna tell him you got show.
I know.
We do have some questions to wrap up the show, but before that, I wanted to like circle back on some of the things you said. You talked about like meeting Bobby at the Comedy Store, and I feel like it's like a rite of passage. Like if you frequent the Comedy Store, to have a Bobby Lee story. Like so many people I know have one. Like even like my favorite Comedy Store moment was like running into Bobby. Like it was like the first time I ran into him was like a crazy experience because a week before that, I used to be Theo Vaughn's producer for his podcast, and that's how I met George. Yeah. And a week prior to me seeing Bobby at the Comedy Store, George took me out for lunch and he was all nervous. I was like, I've never fucking seen this guy nervous before. And he took me out to lunch and he's like a mentor of mine. So he used to take me out to lunch a lot and give me advice. He taught me how to produce and do all of these things. And I was like, why is this guy nervous? Like, he doesn't want to take me out to lunch anymore. I started getting nervous. And he was like, hey, listen, how would you feel about maybe not working for Theo anymore and then working for us on TigerBelly? And that was like the best decision. I love Theo, love him a lot. That was like the best decision I think I've ever made, is like swapping over and getting to learn from George.
100%.
And then so I told him, and then George took me out. Okay, like this weekend, there's going to be a UFC fight. This is back when Bobby was really into it. Yeah. Why don't you come over? We'll watch the UFC fight. I'll introduce you to everyone. Aww. And then I was wrapping up working with Theo, so I was still like telling him like, hey, I'm gonna leave soon. And then I ran into Bobby at the Comedy Store, and he recognized me from the fight night. And so we were like saying hi for a little bit, and immediately I see he stopped paying attention to what I was saying and like looked at my belly. And then just couldn't help himself and poked me in the belly, and then did the doughboy laugh. He went hee like that, and then I was like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
Because then he's like obviously not paying attention. He's going and I'm not even saying anything. And then he did it again. So I was like, I guess I gotta finish the story. Like, hey, I'm excited to work with you and stuff.
His attention.
And he just kept doing it.
Oh my god!
And then he was like doing he would like like do the doughboy laugh. And I think that's the funny. Like I tell all my friends that story, and it's like the funniest thing that's ever happened.
I actually met him one time before the time that I said on here. And I just
you lied to us.
I know. I did it for the story. But he didn't remember it.
Okay.
Oh.
So I met him. I was like, I had a friend who was doing a podcast at the Comedy Store, and I was helping her out with that a bit. And then so we were just like, me and my friend Cole, we were there at the Comedy Store just during the middle of the day. And then Bobby's there. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like, it's crazy. And then he's talking to us for a bit. And then we talked about movies, and he was like, you should watch Let the Right One In. I was like, okay. And then like I see him again at the Comedy Store. I'm like, I wonder if he's gonna remember. And I was like, hey,
I'm supposed to watch Old
I was like, I watched Let the Right One In. And he was like, oh, it's a great movie. I'm like, he doesn't remember me. but I was like,
great movie.
And then I said the Brandon Dermer thing, and then we like talked. And I was like, that was like the extra little. And I was like, actually, this is fine. Because he's just like, oh, I like that movie. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like he doesn't remember, but this is still gonna work.
Yeah, he thinks you guys
out.
are like bonding.
But no, after that first time I met him, like that the guy Dermer called me the next day, and he was like, hey, Bobby just called me and told me you met you. And I was like, what? And he's like, I think it was on TigerBelly. and it was on the Blake Anderson episode, and I like it would literally felt like AI. He was like, another thing, Dermer. I had this guy come to me at the Comedy Store the other day. His name is McKone. And I was a nice guy, and you talked to, and again, Bob was doing it as something. It was like, you cut me out of your movie, Dermer, and I'm talking to these people who know you. But like the fact that he like remembered my name and like said that, like I sent that to my friends back home, and they were like, "Is this AI?" Like they didn't think it was real, and that was still one of the like craziest moments in my life, hearing my name on TigerBelly.
Aw.
All this time ago.
Bobby's talked about
It's
me,
funny
I think,
'cause
twice on TigerBelly.
Yeah, he brings you up. I think it's like more than twice. He brings you up a lot, actually.
I know I've been
Because
brought up on Bad Friends once.
Yeah.
It's so funny too because they'll always like text me like we talked about you.
Oh,
I'm
really?
like,
If
Why?
every time there's a porn star, he always asks, "Do you know Lumi?"
no, what's funny though, the last time he mentioned me was Blake Anderson.
What?
really?
We got mentioned in the same episode?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
he
before
was.
I knew.
Whoa.
Lumi.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like it's like January of 2023.
That's exactly when.
Yeah, that's crazy. I have to go
I-
back and watch that episode. When you asked me, like, I don't know if you were working on the episode, then I started panicking because I've been on TigerBelly for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
So there's a good, and it's like, I can't remember everything. So it's like, great, you're going to bring up some obscure episode that I don't
a
remember.
really random guy.
Yeah.
One of the goats, though.
Yeah, you were talking about how like, it's really important to like find the right people to work with. That was, I don't even know if you remember this, like when we went to lunch and I said like, listen, even if you like this idea, you also have to like me. Like, and it's not a big deal if you
so
don't like me.
important.
Like, but it's like, like if you just like the idea, I'll find, it's not a personal thing. I'll find you the right producer for this.
Aw.
But like, you're going to be seeing me a lot.
But you also didn't want me to go to Carlos.
No, okay. I wasn't
don't
gonna
go to Carlos.
I wasn't gonna mention that because
You didn't tell me that till later.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Till
I was
after we got
super
established, and
nervous
then you're like,
about it.
You're like, honestly, I was just trying to swoop before Carlos like tried to.
Because I made the mistake of telling Carlos like, hey, I'm gonna like approach Lumi, like, what do you think? This is my idea, and then he had a million other ideas for you. I was like, I gotta like talk to you real quick, because like, why wouldn't you go with Carlos? Is your friend. You don't know who I am. You know what I mean? Like even if I gave you a good pitch, like you want to work with your friends, so it wouldn't have been like.
Honestly, though, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like that'd be harder.
Yeah, maybe.
Like it'd be different if I didn't know Carlos and it was just gonna be a work thing. But I've gotten drunk and gone to dinner with Carlos and have overshared stuff with Carlos. So we don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like once you cross a certain emotional boundary with friends, it's like we probably shouldn't work together.
Yeah.
Like I know
He's the king of
weird
oversharing.
sex stuff you're into.
Yeah, he's
like,
the king of oversharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a very public platform.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm like I knew before Bad Friends. Because I never listened to Bad Friends, but I just know from Carlos telling me about glory holes and
Yeah,
hookers.
exactly. That's what he says on the show. The stuff he says off the show is you can't even imagine.
No,
Yeah,
that's why.
It's insane.
And I thought, yeah.
But no, it is like a good vibe is so that's like kind of what I meant about like the chill thing. It's just like finding people that just like good vibes are the best. Like,
Good vibes are the
sets are
best.
stressful.
Yeah.
Like
No,
there's you're always having to work on like stuff. Like always kind of is like you have to fix things and you always have to like and it's just like keep a good attitude, working long hours. People are driving a bunch of different creative people having different ideas and trying to get on the same page. Like people that
but
kill the
that's why
vibe just don't.
I think we have good chemistry in that way. I don't know if I would have been as I just don't know if like me and Carlos would have had that same thing.
Yeah. Also,
Communication-wise.
I love Carlos. My idea was better. So I just have to know that my idea for the podcast is a
And
little
that,
bit better.
like, I knew I didn't want to do something that was going to be based about adult entertainment. And I didn't
That's
want
what
to just
Carlos'
like...
idea was?
I don't know.
I'm not going to say
No,
the
I'm just kidding. That's a completely idea that you would have had.
Yeah. I have, so the one thing that I can say is I went to 7 IQs first. I was like, hey, I want to start the OnlyFans division. And I'm going to go to a bunch of creators. None of the shows are going to be about. It just so happens that the hosts do that. And we're going to make unique shows for them. And then I think Carlos was like so on board with that. And we almost had a show where Carlos was just going to interview OnlyFans girls.
I
kind
remember
of like,
that, him talking about that.
Yeah.
That idea.
So he would have made your show pop if you did produce it. I won't say what the idea was, but
I know.
But
no, once I was told in the beginning of my career to lean into the chef thing. So when you approached me about that, I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like somebody wants me to do something that's not.
I bet you'd make a mean tater tot hot dish. I'll send you some recipes. They're great. I'll hit up my mom.
I don't think we've ever publicly said this on the podcast either, but also George had a stern talking to me after our meeting with you, because George taught me to, like, hey, when you're pitching ideas, never go super specific. Just kind of keep it broad and then let them figure out how, and then build it on from there.
You literally were like, I made this show for you.
Yeah, I was like, I made this show for you specifically. This show makes zero sense with any other host. I don't know any other chefs.
That's like, it's so specific. That's what you want, you know?
And it was like, yeah, you were like at the top of, I also got advice who I'm not going to name.
We'll talk about it off camera.
Yeah, she gave me advice like, hey, when you're like approaching these girls, don't give them compliments or anything. They already get enough compliments. Like, just say you want to work with them.
Well, yeah, don't be like, nice
Yeah, but I was
don't need
you
that.
got to stop saying. You said that to me when I walked in.
I
know. It was nice to hear. I had a tough day, but on a different day.
Like, whoa, Chris.
Boy. Yeah.
I told you, be chill.
Yeah, Bobby can say that, but I don't know this guy. No, I do.
All right. I mean, you have nice. I don't know what you want me to say.
I don't know what you want me to say.
I had to
it was great.
mention
It was great to see you. Thank you for having me.
No, it was just like, because I wanted to say, I practiced my pitch for you with her, and I was like, I really want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, don't say that.
Don't say that.
I was like, I don't know. Are you sure I shouldn't say that? Like,
I don't know. I felt very special.
Yeah. So, you really were like, this is who, like, because I went before.
You're like, I don't know his chefs.
Yeah, I went.
Like, this would be really weird for anyone else.
There's one human being on earth that fits this criteria.
I went to like other, because I didn't know you personally. Like, I just went to other people. I'm like, hey, what do you think about Lumi? And they only said good things about how professional you were. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Let me think of an idea. I was watching a bunch of interviews. I did research on you. I was like, okay, I have an idea for you. And then I set up a meeting, did all of that. Yeah. Okay.
I love how it's turned in about me.
Okay. Well, to bring it back
to the actual guest.
We do have some questions for you.
All right, it's great.
Here they are.
Also, I have mine. If the camera wants to see.
Me and my
Oh my God. Should we tell the roasts that Morgan wrote?
Morgan wrote? This is, I wish she was
young
here.
Version of the Trump.
No,
Can we say that? I don't know if I could say that.
Image of McKone as a kid, ... Looks like a burgeoning serial killer / hacker with a day job of working at Best Buy on the Geek Squad.
Nailed it.
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
Pretty good. And has night terrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was actually before the night terror. That was a kid who was living
like, that was actually
large.
a great
he was loving life. He was
period
like,
of my life.
This is great.
Living large,
Being a
looking
kid,
like
you know?
a IT guy.
Yeah, that just
Exactly.
gave other people night terrors.
Yeah, they're like, that kid's gonna skid my cat for sure.
I know, even my parents, when they look, because I made that my Twitter profile, because it's such a bad photo. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing.
They were just like, yeah, like the haircut too, like the hair straight down
that's their
like
fault.
that. No, they're like, I don't know why we let you leave the house. Like, that's on us. They were like, we are sorry.
That's on us.
Yeah, they're like, we set you up for all that bully. We just threw you in the lion den, dude. They're like, I can't believe that.
I can't believe we did that
should
to
have called
you.
CPS. That's bad, man.
That's how the mullet is an upgrade now.
Exactly. Yeah, the bald head was an upgrade from that.
That was an amazing time.
Yeah, that was. Did you ever see it in person? I don't think I've seen you in a while.
Did you have it in San Diego? I think I met you in San Diego, and then you and Carlos came to my birthday,
Your birthday party. That was, that was.
You had
that was
hair
really
then.
fun. I did have hair then.
You had hair.
That was one of my friends.
Your hair actually looks pretty good at that point.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
One of my friends from Minnesota subleased my apartment when I was out on tour, and that was her last night in LA. And I lived down the street from where the party was in Hollywood, and I was just like,
no vacancy.
Okay, cool. I don't know if we could say it or not. Yeah, I used to live down the
Shout
street from
out.
No Vacancy, and I was like, I'd never been there, so I was like, oh, want to come to this thing? She's like, yeah, for sure. Really fun time. Next day, I was driving to the airport. And she was like, wow, like everyone there was in comedy. And I was like, no, actually, everyone there was in the adult film industry. And she was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. And I was like, why? And she was like, everyone all night was like, are you in the industry? And she was like, no, but my friend is. he's a filmer, but he mainly only works with this older Asian guy and this ginger dude. But they go pretty hard on him sometimes. It's tough to watch. And I was like, oh, all right, well.
Oh my God.
I was like, no.
God. They're like, I gotta look this dude up.
Yeah, they're like, really? That guy?
Gets Eiffel Towered by
Yeah,
a
that's
ginger
crazy.
Asian dude.
I thought I would have seen him on somewhere. That's crazy.
They're all like, I've never worked with him. They're like, well, he's mostly working with the ginger and
just
Asian
these two
guy.
guys. Those are his guys.
Those are the only guys he works with.
They're pretty mean, but he keeps smiling and just nodding his head.
He's
That's what
really
he
good at
does.
just taking it.
Yep, he's just always in the back, just going like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Best case of mistaken identity. All right, so this question also actually comes from Morgan. She said that you posted in that 2001 Space Odyssey is one of your favorite movies.
Yep.
Okay, in 30 seconds, can you explain why it is necessary to film apes fucking around with, what is it, an obelisk for 40 minutes? You get 30 seconds.
Well, so that whole movie is about the progression of intelligence. That's the entire thing, and
It took 40 minutes. Sorry,
it took
Morgan.
40 minutes to do it. That's the most purest form of cinema is silent cinema. If you can do everything visually, it's so amazing. Like silent film was gonna be that. Before the Jazz Singer came out, silent films in 1927 were so incredible because they were reaching such a crazy point where it was gonna be a universal language. No matter what language you spoke, if you looked at a silent film, and they were supposed to be shown in giant amphitheaters with live orchestras, and it was the closest we were gonna get to a universal human language. Because, and then eventually the Jazz Singer came out and then changed cinema forever, and film became a lot more about talking, and it's amazing. Movies are amazing.
Now we just dub everything.
But it's really cool whenever you get to those points of pure cinema, just visual storytelling. And that 2001 is one of the best examples of a modern-ish, it came out in 1968, but a modern movie that uses really no dialogue. So much of that movie has no dialogue. It's not just the first 40, it's also the last 30, a lot of it in the middle, but it explains these incredibly complex, hard to digest ideas about human intelligence and technology and what are the things that actually make us progress as a species, the thing, and that's, it tells you all of that in the way that only Kubrick could do it, and it's amazing and beautiful and so weird. I saw it in 70 millimeter this year, and that was incredible, and it was the loudest thing I've ever heard, and my ears hurt, but it was worth it because the movie's amazing. I saw it at the Egyptian.
Nice.
Is that 30 seconds?
Yeah, it was. You were on the light.
You let me get away with it a little longer, which I appreciate. Thank you. That's a lot of words, though. It's pretty good words per second.
Yeah. You're a speed talker. It's a skill. I
used to talk so fast I'd stutter.
Oh, nice.
But it was just because it wasn't an actual stutter, just because I would talk like this so
your
fast.
fucking mouth is catching up.
Exactly. This is me talking slower. I used to talk so fast that I could not.
People are
my
probably
brain
like,
was
this
going
dude's
faster.
on.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. That when I looked like that, when I looked like the glasses, that's what I would talk. I'd just talk and stutter because I was talking so fast.
This is definitely a baby.
Yeah.
This kid's
Minnesota babies. We're a different breed.
Here's another Morgan
chocolate
question.
milk and
Yeah. How did you convince your high school to do the mannequin challenge?
Oh, it was that was. They went on my Twitter.
I'm like,
this is all from my Twitter.
What is this research?
I mean, at that point I was already doing I was doing so much stuff for the news. Everybody was all they liked all the stuff I did on the news, and they were all down, and it was a big challenge at the time. And I was literally I did enough. It was gonna be on the news and our school news, and I was gonna put it on Twitter and stuff, and everyone was just everyone was down because they liked the stuff that I already did, and I was just hey, can we do this? And they were like, oh yeah, this will be fun, and it was cool. It was fun.
Nice.
That's basically it.
I have a question for you.
What you got?
Yeah, I'm a fellow bizarre dreamer, by the way, so apocalypsey. Would you ever make a film for based off your night terrors? Do you write any of them down?
Maybe. I don't know. They're all short.
I would like to not relive them.
I don't know. I guess because I mean everything in a certain sense, every single work that an artist does is going to be somewhat autobiographical in a certain way. You have to connect with it in some way.
I was gonna say, I'm maybe that's how you get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, a lot of it is
it's your
just
brain
kind of
saying that you have to create something.
I mean, I love absurdist shit, like David Lynch. A lot of them feels very absurdist. I want to watch more Robert Downey Sr. I've heard he's really has done some really incredible just weird bizarre movies back in I think the 60s and 70s. And there are a couple on my list, but that's another one I want to kind of fall down a rabbit hole and watch. But just like I love just kind of like weird lynching. I loved that like kind of that back room like meme thing that was going on. I don't know if you guys saw any of those back room stuff or like liminal spaces, like those like, you know, Twitter and Instagram stuff. Like they just play like a lot of kind of like old music and it's like a weird like melancholy feeling, the kind of like empty spaces.
Okay.
But like I love that kind of feeling of like a strange empty melancholy. Oh, the Midwest is a lot of that. I was thinking we're getting to the fall, like Halloween season, and that's one of the times that I feel like the Midwest has really great representation in cinema because it, you know, the seasons change and it's unique. And like I love the fall in Minnesota. It was such a great time. Like bonfires out there, going to Valley Fair, which is like our like roller coasters and stuff.
To be fair, a lot of those movies are just filmed in Pasadena, though.
I know. Halloween's in Pasadena. It's crazy. It's not in Illinois at all.
No.
But still, the aesthetics are all there. But that's the thing. Like, that just leaves more opportunity for more of those things to be shot actually in the Midwest or Minnesota. And now, like, Illinois has done a lot with, like, really great tax breaks for filmmakers. And hopefully Minnesota follows soon. Because, like, it's tough to make a movie in Minnesota because it has one of the few, there was a YouTuber that did like a video about like 50 movies that perfectly represent each state of the US. And when he got to Minnesota, he's like, this was the easiest one to do. Fargo. Like Fargo is just so, it's one of the greatest movies ever made. And it's so Minnesotan, but also Minnesota is so much more than our winters. Like obviously our winters are very long, but like the summers and the lakes are amazing and the fall is beautiful. And like, there's so much great.
It's a place with actual seasons.
Yeah, and also like really interesting people. Like they're really kind, very passive aggressive, but just like when I was FedEx driving, it was so weird because it was like during COVID and I was just like alone in my FedEx truck doing these like 15-hour shifts and it was like terrible. But like I'd like a couple times when the snow was so bad, I'd get stuck in people's like driveways because I was delivering to these like farmhouses like way out in the outskirts of Minnesota. And then I'd always be like, I was just living in Chicago. Like people would be like so mad at you if you would like do it, like if you'd get close to them in like a truck or whatever. And like these people would just like run, and all like outside are all just like home of a Marine shooter. If you trespass, one shot, one kill. Like all of that, like crazy, like this is a real sign I saw. The best way to get close to God is prayer. The second best way to get close to God is trespassing on my lawn with like a gun, like emoji. I was just like, this is great. And they're all just like sweet old ladies. Like it's not gonna be like they'd run out with like their shovels and they're like, they just like start. I wouldn't even say. I'd be like, I'm so sorry. Like, that's okay. Let's just get you out of here. Or just like a bunch of guys being like, oh, you got. They're like, they have a big truck. They want this tab, and they're like, oh, well, you got your truck stuck. Like, hey, like I'll get you out. I'll pull you out right now. Like they're just like so nice.
Wow.
But it is like, yeah, it's bizarre. It's a weird place. It's absurd.
Sounds.
Does that answer the question? I don't know. I don't know what the question was anymore. I fell away.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that answers all our questions. Go to the Midwest. Got it. Okay, so where can we find you? You know, social media.
Yeah.
It's your turn to do that.
I'm pretty easy to find.
I'm pretty easy to
No
find.
one else on earth is named McKone Corkery. So
yeah, just Google.
Yeah, watch Bad Friends.
Yes.
Get tickets to live shows. They're unlike anything you've ever seen.
Are you guys going on tour again or no?
They're crazy. I mean, if you're in Australia or New Zealand, or we just added shows in Singapore, so that'll be crazy.
That'll be super fun.
Follow me on Twitter.
You guys should.
That's where not Twitter. No one goes on Twitter anymore. Like that's everything you posted. I posted in high school. Like nothing in there is new.
You should vlog like a little food tour while you guys are in Singapore. It's like some of the best street food.
I like shoot so much. So like go on the Bad Friends Patreon. Like there's so much cool tour documentary stuff that I put up there, and like that's like it's really fun, and a lot of people don't see it. And you know, it's sometimes like I'm still putting out stuff from like year. It takes a while for me to get through it, but I want to make each of them really unique and really cool. And I don't want them to get repetitive at all. And I think I've done a really good job at that. And it's a lot of that fly on the wall shit. Like I want you guys to feel like you're in my shoes and what it is like to be on tour with some of your favorite comedians. And that's what like hopefully the thing gets off. And also, you know, I bumped the mic, sorry. Some of the chaos and all that ensues in it. And it's really fun. And follow me on Instagram at McKone Corkery. That's really where like any work that I make gets posted.
Look him up on
I'm still my domain name. I got to set up a website. I haven't
look
done
him up
that.
on X videos. McKone takes 2 loaves from Ginger and a Korean man.
We'll have to steal you one of these days for our Patreon to shoot some behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Anytime.
what we're doing.
Hit my line. You know how to find me.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's true. You guys know where to find me. Otherwise, why would you be here? But please make sure to leave comments, likes, subscribes. This was this ended up being 2 hours, and it was supposed to be 1 hour. So now I do definitely have to make a Patreon because there's no way we're putting all this on YouTube. I don't even know what's the longest that we're allowed to put.
Oh, I mean, we can put this all on YouTube for sure. Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to get the Patreon for me. I'm sorry. I know that if it was Bobby or Ange, it'd be a different story. I don't know if anyone's going to subscribe because of me, but I appreciate the show.
Love it.
Right,
you should come with Bobby when he comes on.
Yeah, he'd love that.
Get some BTS. Get some Patreon stuff.
No, actually, I would totally do that.
Yeah.
All right. Did we end?
Did we end? Yes, we're done.
Bad friends is so easy. They say thank you for being a bad friend, and we all know it's over.